Morning all. Recognise a few faces, not everybody. I'm not used to this. This is not something I do very often, so this should be entertaining. The slides are coming up to prompt me, so as I know what I've got to talk about next, as I'll waffle for the rest of the day. So let's see what we got next. The message, who we are, what we do, why you might consider telemarketing, because we all hate telemarketing, don't we, Ian? How it works, a brief answer on that, and when is best. You'll find that who, what, why runs all the way through this, again for prompting purposes. So who? See if the clicker will work. Me. There's me. A little bit of background on me. I started Enterprise Assist about, it's approaching 15 years ago. It's a business consultancy. I work with lots of small businesses. I've started in my time around 20 myself and helped about another 8 to start. So it's a fair bit of starting businesses. Some of those I've had to recover from disasters and start again. It's been entertaining, I have to say the least. My first business was 40 years ago now, so I was 23. The third one I sold to a corporate, so I got dragged in with it, because that's what happens when you sell a business. And it took me a long time to get out again, so 15 years ago, Enterprise Assist jumped up. Today, it's me and Nige talking about Carson. There's a nice picture of me, trying to do some work. Carson came about when Nigel decided that he wanted a telemarketing arm to his social media, his marketing company. Which started out as WNW, as a web company, has morphed into other things nowadays, which he'll tell you about a bit later. So we wanted to have a short domain name, make it nice and easy. So that's where it came from. So as you don't forget and get it wrong, it's not Wilter, which is the opposite way around. So try not to confuse us. That's the wrong way. And there's a nice logo done by Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan. Telemarketing. We do telemarketing, telesales, data cleaning or cleansing, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and event marketing. Interestingly, when I'm out there, there's a lot of confusion about telemarketing and telesales. People seem to get mixed up on it. I don't know why. It seems obvious to me, but looking around the room, it seems obvious to you guys as well. Simplified, it's that. I'm not going to go through every word that's on the slide. I think you can read that quite simply. Information gathering is important. What information do you need to gather? What information do you need to impart, for that matter? And then you've got to drive the creation of interest. Now, you've had a lot of talks on marketing this morning. You've got all sorts of tips, but I will be touching on some of that again. And then telesales, selling and closing. Data cleaning, that's something we get involved in quite a bit now. Clicker only works when it wants to, or roughly, that's why. Data protection now, GDPR, you have to be on top of these things. However, if you're contacting people, you've got good reason to contact them, especially if they can be found anywhere on the internet. You don't need to get too hung up on it, especially if you're a small company. I'm not saying break the law by any means, but do not get too bogged down in your work. You need to talk to people. Event marketing. Well, we just had a great one from Dave, all about events and stuff. He's absolutely right. Nobody follows up. I've been doing these exhibitions and marketing and networking and everything. People just don't follow up. Following up's so important, and we're doing a lot more of that nowadays, helping people to follow up. So why might you do it? This is bringing my Enterprise Assist hat in slightly here. When I go into a small business or start a small business, or I'm in a business that I'm trying to grow, first off I need to simplify it back, because we're all talking about the same things. It's the very first thing I do. The 3 basic legs of a business: operations, finance, marketing and sales. That's as far back as I can take it. You imagine a stool, if you've got 3 legs, it's balanced. If you grow those 3, as a balance, you'll be okay. If you don't, if you let one, is that you, Nige? If you let one go, a little bit weak, you'll fall over. Simple as that. Operations is delivering. That's the reason the business is started. It's because someone's good at something. Generally speaking, don't start things that you're not good at, as far as I'm aware anyway. The point is, though, if you've started a business and you're good at those bits, are you going to be good at all the other bits? Well, you might be to start with, whilst it's still quite new, but as it grows, it's very easy to start to tip it over. So you've got to look carefully at that all the time. The marketing and sales element is what we're talking about today. So marketing, awareness and interest, engaging and closing. There is a difference there. You do need to make sure you understand the difference. The number of people that I get who say, oh, I need a new salesman. Okay, and what do you want that salesperson to do? Well, I want them to go out there and find clients. That's marketing. Going out there and creating interest is marketing. It's not sales. Sales is closing. So be careful what you expect your people to do and when. Oh, look, some stats, some percentages. These were interesting ones. These are ones that are used by a number of other people in the telemarketing and marketing industry, which I was quite taken with. In fact, they're on our own website, I believe. They're quite interesting, aren't they? Now, stats are stats at the end of the day. I've got no way of proving whether those are right or wrong. But even if they're 10% wrong or 20% wrong, they're still very, very interesting. And we've been talking earlier about nurturing. I think, Darryl, that was your little bit about nurturing clients. Nurtured leads. Now, again, that's a stat that's come from somewhere that I can show you where I got it from, but I can't prove that that's right. But nonetheless, even if it's wrong or slightly wrong, it's still impressive. You've got to look after the clients. So, thinking about your business, and your skills in particular, and your time in particular, your resource, why are you doing what you don't need to? You might be great at phoning people up. You might be great at doing that, but what else are you great at? What else can your business benefit from? So why are you spending your time making phone calls and all the rest of it? That's what organisations like Carson are for, is to take some of that away from you so you can focus on what you're really good at. And probably what you're really good at is closing. If you can get those people in front of you, you can probably knock them over. What do you need to sell? Now this is it's an interesting question, because you think, well, it's just whatever my product is, but sometimes there's more to it. One of the companies that I grew a few years back from nothing to selling £4.2 million worth of product in 3 years. We are actually making more money off the products we didn't make than the products we made. So think about carefully what it is you're offering out there. If it's just a service, or if it's a product and a service, or just a product, think carefully about what it is you're trying to get out there. What do you need to sell? We've done that. Why do you need to sell it? Now that seems like a silly question, doesn't it? Why do you need to sell it? It is a silly question. How do you intend to sell it? And when do you want to sell it? Now, we all want to sell it now, but you've got to think carefully about when you're going to sell it and how you're going to plan to sell it. And here's the glamorous assistant. Nigel's just going to run you through on what we did with WNW.
Microphone, haven't I? Thank you very much, Richard. Right, as Richard said, one of the reasons for setting up Carson was that we'd originally grown WNW predominantly through using telemarketing. The last job I had employed, which was just over 19 years ago, was in a telemarketing agency, company that basically invented good as telemarketing for chartered accountants. When I decided to leave that and set up my own business, I knew a little bit about web, not a lot, because back in 2000 nobody much did, but I did know about telemarketing. So I got on the phone and I spoke to people and said, hey, you've heard about these newfangled websites, do you fancy one? Kind of worked. We then grew it very much using telemarketing over the next few years, and of latter years that's kind of faded away because other things have happened. We've had a lot of reputation, we've got a lot of repeat business, but then you get to a point, right, I want to grow the business again. So I got on the phone and I hit the phone a little bit, but the trouble is, if you're out there selling stuff, you don't have time to make the phone calls. So you make the phone calls, you fill up your diary, and you get this feast famine because you can't be doing everything. You've got to go out and do the appointments, and you've got to write the quotes, and you've got to go for the second appointments, you've got to do the briefings to get the work fulfilled, and then you find that you haven't made any phone calls for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So you really do need somebody dedicated to do that. So I looked at some of the other agencies that were out there, and minimum contract $2,500 a month. Well, that's great, but I didn't have that kind of budget. But more importantly, I didn't have. If they created the number of appointments that should create, I just couldn't deal with that level of work. A, there's only me to deal with it, and B, we've only got a relatively small team. We don't want that. We want a few appointments a week. 1, 2, 3 max, really. So we decided to set up Carson. So we did a number of things. First of all, we did a big GDPR project, which I'm not going to bore you with, but this is just what's happened over the last 4 months. This was correct as of yesterday morning. So in the last 4 months, we have made 18 appointments. 2 of which I haven't yet attended, so included them because the appointment's made, but I haven't actually seen them. We can actually add that up to 3 not attended because I made another one yesterday afternoon. We've got 2 not attended. We've got 3 that are ongoing. I've seen them. There's quotes in progress, blah, 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 pipeline. 5 have signed. 5 new signings in the last 4 months. And that brings up a total figure of, Richard, £21,280 worth of business for an investment of £3,840. That, as a blunt figure, if somebody said, right, I've got a machine where you put in £3,800 and it gives you back £21,000. Yes, there's cost of sale and cost of delivery in that, but if somebody had a machine that gave you that in itself would be pretty fantastic. But somebody earlier this morning was talking about the cost of acquisition, which as a business owner in marketing, I would say it's probably the most important figure we can know in our businesses, is how much does it cost to buy a new customer. So it's cost me that much to buy that much worth of new customer in year 1. The thing is, they're going to buy stuff in year 2. This 5 is a mix of websites and digital marketing. The websites are one-off projects, but they will probably then go on to buy digital marketing. They'll certainly buy hosting. The digital marketing, that is year 1 figure. Our typical customer stays 3 to 5 years. I've got 1 customer still with us from 2003. So the cost of acquisition, if they stay with us 3-5 years, is going to be absolutely fantastic. So that's our little case study. I'll hand you back now to Richard.
Thank you kindly. And of course, all those appointments are still people that are still being talked to or spoken to. It's probably a better way of saying it. So it's quite interesting how that's worked. So, following the theme across the top, how? We've done a lot of strategy work this morning. We've talked about this, planning and what have you. And I've been following this sort of theme all the way through. To continue us on, I won't speak on that for too long because obviously we've gone through it a few times, but requirements for telemarketing engagement. And you've got to think about what you're going to need here. You're going to need data. And this is a bit that causes a lot of problems and concern within who the heck are you going to phone up, who are you going to talk to. We're not an organisation that's set up to plough through tens of thousands of names and what have you. We're much more focused on that. We want the people that you want to speak to. So who are you trying to get at? What organisations are you trying to get at? A lot of this can be done from your own databases that you've already got, that GDPR compliant obviously and all those good things, but also using LinkedIn and various other things like that. So when you're looking at the sources and accuracy and all that sort of stuff, think about it. If we're going after, let's say for the sake of argument, Southwest Water, you'll be able to use LinkedIn to find out who you need to speak to. And you don't need to just speak to the decision makers. You've got to think about the influencers around them. They need calling, they need speaking to as well. So you don't need a load of youngsters on telephones. Don't try to attack me. You need people on the phone who are going to represent you very well, and it tends to be the more mature people that do it. So if we get really successful, it causes us a problem with recruitment, because you can recruit the White Sox quite easily. The older people are harder to recruit, and yet they're the ones that do the best talking for you on the phone, which is what you want. You're going to need to produce a script. We don't want a script that's so wordy and so fixed that we can't flex. We need our people to be able to flex properly and be mature, talk to people properly. So it's got to be engaging and flexible. We're going to be imparting information, we're going to be gathering information. We're back to the telemarketing, telesales type scenario. What are we doing at that point? Are we just telemarketing, gathering and imparting, or are we actually trying to close? No, the opportunity, if we get through to somebody and we can get straight to the decision maker and the person that's going to make the decision, we'll go for the close. Why would we not? We're going to need an email. We need an email address from you. We need it so that we can send out emails on your behalf with the right content and all the rest of it. And we're going to need the right links and attachments. The reason I'm going through that is because this stuff is the bit that we struggle to get out of people. I think you find that a lot into your own businesses. You get a contact on board, they sign up, and then trying to get the rest of the business or the information off them is quite tough. You could do without that, but if we don't have it, we can't move forward. It seems to be a bit missing off there, but we'll move on to the next slide. Oh, there it is. Attachments too. Case studies, benefits, credentials. They're very, very useful when you're sending that email through and then following up. Every opportunity we got to go back and talk to those people again and nurture them is important. This stuff is the basics that we need. There's a lot of other things as well, but we can get by with these things. At least get started. Expectations, there's an interesting one. Some of you in the room will know that when I engage with organisations, I tend not to write a contract. We have 2 letters of expectation, one from me, one from you. That way we know where we start, and it's a living document, so as you move forward you can amend it accordingly, because otherwise 3 months down the road someone will say, well, I expect you to do such and such. Well, that wasn't on our letter, so we didn't do it. We do have a contract from Carson, but we do expect you to engage properly and have a proper expectation of us. What else could you think that you might stick on that list? Come on Ian, you can think of something.
So you should do all those things on the same left-hand side as well?
You're exactly right. Did you look at my slides beforehand?
No, I'd say
you just know what I'm...
But how you got that, I have no idea.
Roles and responsibilities. I mean, I'm not going through it all again, but you've got to think carefully about who's going to do what and when. If people miss out on their bit of it, their timing of it, it slows the whole thing down. Most marketing takes time. It takes time to engage, it takes time to implement, and then it takes time to get the crop in. So think very carefully about when you start it. This is what we will do for you. We will pick the phone up. This is interesting actually, because everybody tells me when I start talking to them that they always pick the phone up. I think Darryl does, but most people don't. If you go back to those stats earlier on, people make one phone call and then give up. And I see this a lot in businesses. There's not enough following up. As a telemarketing organisation, we will pick the phone up and we'll keep picking it up. We were after someone at Exeter College. It took 26 calls. We got him. 26 calls. How many of you in this room would make 26 calls? I wouldn't, but we did. And we'll treat obtaining your results like we would for our own companies, as we do for our own companies. We put ISCA Digital through, Enterprise Assist has gone through, and various other ones that we've got. You just need to provide the information for us and go to the appointments. We've not had a problem with that with our clients at this point in time, as far as I'm aware, Nigel. Where they don't turn up.
Where they didn't follow up.
Yeah, but that is frustrating. But I do know with some of our colleagues out there, like air marketing and what have you, one of their biggest bugbears is they find the appointments and people don't turn up. Well, when seems like a daft idea to put up there, but you've got to consider the process flow. If you're going to engage in something like this, we get the agreement signed. That takes a bit of time to make sure that you're getting what you want to get. So we're going to have the right results coming out. We take payment. I'm not a fan of credit. We're running this on a shoestring to give small businesses an opportunity to get in on this. If they've got thousands to spend, that's different. We can push them out into a credit, or we can push them out into air marketing because they've got a bigger budget type scenario. But we're working with the smaller organisations. We're fairly niche on that. We want to work with the people that we want to work with. Then we get the training commenced. That's our guys starting to learn what it is you guys do, how you want it presented. It's quite a bit of work to do on that, so there's some time to be taken. We produce a script. All the information I mentioned earlier needs to be provided, so we've got to collate all that. You guys have got to do some work there. And then we get going on the calling process. We start making those phone calls. We start picking that phone up in earnest. And then we achieve. We'll get that appointment or sale if we were doing telesales, but we get that appointment for you. We aim to get you in front of those clients as soon as we possibly can. The next step back from that is we get you a telephone appointment so as you can talk to the client on the phone. Because not everybody will take a face-to-face appointment. We get the information sent out, whether that's just more information they want or an information to set a time or a date or whatever. And we get all the information that we've been gathering, both sending out and gathering in, to you guys. You attend appointment. I felt it necessary to put that up because people just don't. Shocking. And then we review it. We want to know why that worked, not if it didn't work. We're more interested, or at least interested, in why it worked. Because if we can find out what's making it work really well for you, it's easier to repeat and do it more often and tweak. So given all of that I've just gone through, how long did it take? It took a long time. Longer than we'd like. We can do it in a couple of days from our side, but from your side you've got other things to do, other things to focus on. So how soon can we get that off you so that we can get going on this? Because you've sat in front of somebody, you've started your sales process. I don't know how long your sales process takes. It would vary like mad in the room, I'm sure. But you've got to add that on to what we've just gone through to get you there. So this isn't a quick fix. If you're going to start, you've got to give it some time to, A, for us to get on the phone, make the calls, make the callbacks, make more callbacks, get people warmed up, get them interested, get you in front of them. Then you've got to start your cycle. So if you're going to start today, an average cycle might take you, what, Easter? Maybe longer, maybe shorter. Hopefully it's shorter. Because everybody we pick the phone up to is going to say, yes please, send them in. Maybe. So you've got to think about when you want your sale and plan early. So, we went through all of that. Obviously it's us that you'd want to choose. I'm sure there's other good telemarketing companies out there, but they tend to be bigger and they tend to want to have a lot of data. We're focused. We want to help the smaller businesses around here and get them on their feet as soon as we possibly can. Without reading all of those out to you, because I think you're quite capable of reading them, when do you want to get started? So, just to remember, that's what's going on out there. Marketing managers deem it to be very effective. From your point of view, is it best use of your time to be making lots of phone calls? If you come back from an exhibition, do you need to be making all the follow-up calls? If you're exhibiting, do you need to be making all the follow-up calls? We've been to your exhibitions, Dave. We've spoken to loads of people and said, we can do your follow-up calls. Guess how many clients we've got who wanted us to do their follow-up calls? None. None. How many phoned up? I do the same as Dave. I put little cards out to wait and see if people will follow up. Doesn't happen. Follow up. The chances of you closing because you followed up are far higher than if you haven't.